Alrighty guys, so I'm gonna just kind of walk through the practice final exam. That way if you guys take it and you're not sure what you did wrong, you can come back to this video and kind of see how I worked through it in hopes that it'll help you for the actual final. Okay, and this is going to be pretty much identical. The only difference is there's going to be 20 questions on the other one. The 20th question for the final exam will just be kind of you reflecting on the class and how I can, improve. So keep those ideas in mind, I guess. So let's go ahead and start with number one. Okay, so number one, we've got a minus 17 equals negative 22. I'm always going to just write it over here on the side so I can show my work with you guys. So a minus 17 equals negative 22. Well, we want to solve for a, so that's by moving that negative 17. So I'm going to add 17 on both sides for these to cancel out. So I've got a equals, and negative 22 plus 17 gets me 5. So my answer is C for number one. All right. Number two. Number two, I've got negative 210 equals 10v minus 6. So first things first, notice there are parentheses, so let's distribute. Okay, so I've got 10v minus 60, and then equals that negative 210. So let's move over that 60 by adding, so plus 60 plus 60. So that gets me negative 150, and then equals 10v. And then my last step is to divide by 10. So we would get v equals negative 15, which would be C. All right, number three. Number three is our proportion. So I've got m divided by 3 equals 5/4. So remember, we're going to cross multiply. So 4 times m gets me 4m. And 5 times 3 gets me 15. So last thing I need to do is just divide by 4. And this one's going to get us a decimal, which is fine. But 15 divided by 4 gets me 3.75. So my answer here is D. Alrighty, on to the next one, number 4. It's focusing on multi-step, so we got to get rid of those parentheses first by distributing. So let's go ahead and do that first. So I got negative 232 equals 8 times negative 8n minus 5. So let's distribute. So 8 times negative 8 gives me a negative 64n, and then 8 times negative 5 gets me a negative 40. And then I'll bring down that negative 232. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that 40. So we're going to add 40. Negative 232 plus 40 gets me a negative 192, and that equals negative 64. We'll then divide by that negative 64 to get n by itself, and we get n equals 3. So in this case, we get D. All right, cool, let's keep going. Number 5, I've got negative 7 is less than or equal to a minus 20. Okay, so we got to get rid of that 20. So because it's a minus 20, let's add. So plus 20 plus 20. So I've got A, and then negative 7 plus 20 gets me 13. Okay, so what I want you guys to notice, oops, I forgot my equal to sign, is that A is the one being eaten by the inequality symbol. So we can see that that's happening for B and for D. So then our last step is to figure out, well, which graph is correct. So we know it's going to have a closed circle. They both have a closed circle, so we're good. So this is saying that 13 is less than A, saying that A is bigger than 13. So we want to go to the ones that are pointing towards bigger numbers, and in this case, that's D. Okay, because it's going towards the larger numbers. All right, number 6. I got 18 is greater than or equal to 2 plus 2r. So let's get rid of that 2 by subtracting. Minus 2 gets me 16. So 16 is greater than or equal to 2r. Divide by 2. So I get 8 is greater than or equal to r. So again, notice the inequality is eating the 8. So that one can knock out D, that can knock out A, and the one that's eating the 8 is C. So you don't even need to check the graph for this one. Gets a C. All right. On to the next, number 7. Getting crazier. So negative 116 is less than negative 4 times 1 plus 8n plus 4n. All right. So first things first, let's distribute. So I would get negative 4 plus, oops, not plus, that would be a minus 32n. And then I'll bring down that 4n as well. So I will need to combine the negative 32n and 4n, which gets us the negative 28n. And we'll bring down that negative 4 and our inequality, and then the 116. Okay, so I'm here. I need to move that 4 by adding, so plus 4 plus 4. So that gets us negative 112. And then negative 28n. And then divide by negative 28. But because you're dividing by negative 28, you got to flip that sign. So that gets us 4 is greater than n. Okay, so again, the inequality sign is eating the 4. So that would be A. Because B, it's not eating the 4. And then C and D, it's not even number 4. So A is our answer. Okay, on to number 8. Like I said, I'm giving you guys the formula, so you'll see the same thing over here on your final. You don't have to memorize it. But first things first, let's label our points. Okay, so I've got my x1, y1, oops. There we go. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going negative 9 minus 1 over negative 6 minus 7. So negative 9 minus 1 gets me a negative 10. Negative 6 minus 7 gets me a negative 13. But a negative divided by negative gets us a positive 10/13. So my answer here is A. All right, let's keep going on to number 9. This is when we're going to start graphing. So our equation is squished at the top. Oops. So I've got y equals negative 3x minus 2. So remember, this is where we start at negative 2. So this one doesn't start at negative 2, and this one doesn't start at negative 2, so those are gone. So now we're between A and B. So our slope is negative 3/2. So we know that, negative slopes go down from left to right. So that can eliminate B. So we know our answer is going to be A. But we can also double check with our graph. So we're starting at negative 2. Okay, we're going, up 3, 1, 2, 3. Back 1. Notice this graph is going by 2, so it makes the counting a little bit different. All right, number 10. Number 10, again, our formula is up here. We're going to start at negative 4. This one is not at negative 4. This one's not at negative 4. So we're back to A and B. And then we're looking for a positive 1 slope. Okay, so looking at B, B's a negative slope because it's going down from left to right. So again, our answer is A. And again, you can check it out by saying, okay, well, we're starting here, well, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1. And that's along that line. Okay, number 11 is starting to factor. So I've got x squared plus 6x plus 5 equals 0. So I'm going to find factors of 5, which is just 1 and 5. Okay, now I want to get 6, so shocker, we're going to use 1 and 5. So I've got x plus 1, x plus 5, and then our last step is set equal to 0. So x equals negative 1, x equals negative 5. So like I said, you could go and set this equal to 0 and solve it, or you can just take this step and flip the signs to get us those answers. Okay, so that would make this, let's see, negative 1, negative 5 would be B. So 11 is B. Okay, number 12. This is our slide method one. We've got 2v squared minus v minus 6 equals 0. So first things first, multiply 2 times 6, giving me 12. So I got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and my goal is to get a negative 1v. So 1 and 12, never going to give me 1. 2 and 6, never going to give me 1. 3 and 4, yes, yes, yes. But we want a negative 1, so we want our bigger number to be negative. So I'm going v plus 3, v minus 4. Oops, wrote x. Let's try that again. There we go, v minus 4. But remember, because we multiplied in our first step, got to divide by that 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2. This doesn't simplify, so slide it. So 2v plus 3. And then this one does, so v minus 2. So then our final answer is just to take those numbers and flip them. So I've got negative 3 halves and 2, which gets us C. Okay, on to number 13. That's the systems problems. This one's asking us to do substitution. So that means I'm taking all this stuff that y equals and plugging it in for y. So negative 7x minus 7 equals 5x plus 17. Okay, so first things first, we can either move the 7 or the 5. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to move the 7 just because it's negative. So I'm going to add 7x. So I've got negative 7 equals 5x plus 7x gets me 12x. And then plus 17. Let's get rid of that 17 by subtracting. So negative 7 minus 17 gets me a negative 24. And I've got 12x. And then divide by 12. So x equals negative 2. Okay, so when you're doing these problems, once you find x, look at your answers. Okay, so notice that the infinite number solutions, that's when you get 0 equals 0, so that's not an option. B has a negative 2x. C has a 7x, so we're going to cancel that out. So we're between B and D. So now we need to plug that number back in, that negative 2 back in to find our y. So I've got y equals 5 times negative 2 plus 17. So let's see. So 5 times negative 2 gets me negative 10 plus 17, which gets us negative 7. Or not negative 7, excuse me. 7, positive 7. So that cancels out D, making our answer B. Okay. Okay, number 14. Again, this is another substitution one, so take what y equals and plug it in where you see y. So I've got 8x plus 8, but instead of y, I'm writing negative 6x minus 4, and then equals 8. Go ahead and distribute that 8 through, so you got 8x, and then we got a minus 48x, and then minus 32. And then equals 8. So when we're here, we got to combine our like terms. Got to combine that 8x and negative 48x, leaving me with negative 40x. And then bring down that negative 32. And then 8. So let's go ahead and add that 32 over. Oops, I wrote 23. There we go. So plus 32 plus 32. So now I got negative 40x equals 40. Divide by negative 40, and x equals negative 1. Okay, so I've got my x value, so now we can jump back to our answers and see, if we can do process of elimination here. So A's got an x of negative 1, B does not, C does not, but D does, okay? So now we can go ahead and take that number and plug it back in. Let's take that negative 1, plug it back in so we can find our y. So I got y equals negative 6 times negative 1 minus 4. So negative 6 times negative 1 gets me 6, and then minus 4 gets me 2. So y equals 2, and then that would give us A as our final answer. Okay, 15 is the elimination ones. So I'm going negative 5x minus 7y equals negative 21. And then negative x plus 7y equals negative 21. Okay, so again, look at your x's, look at your y's, what's going to cancel out, and that will be my y's. So let's go ahead and add down. So negative 5x minus x gets me a negative 6x, and then negative 21 minus 21 gets me a negative 42. We're going to go ahead and divide by negative 6 to get us x equals 7. Okay, so again, process of elimination, let's see. That makes A gone. And that makes D gone. So we're between B and C. So let's take that 7 and plug it back in for x so we can find what y is. So I have negative 5 times 7 minus 7y equals negative 21. So 5 times 7 gets me negative 35 minus 7y equals negative 21. Let's add that 35 over. We're running out of room here. I'm going to pop it over here. So I got negative 7y, and then negative 21 plus 35 gets me 14. And then we'll divide by negative 7. which gets me negative 2. So my answer would be C. Okay. All right, number 16. We got another systems one. This one's, we have to multiply. Okay, so I'm looking at my x's, I'm looking at my y's. So we can multiply by 2 to cancel out our x's, because if you've got a negative 8x and then you wanted to get 16, yeah, just multiply this by 2. So my first equation is going to stay the same. So I got 16x minus 14y equals 29. And then, let's see, negative 16x, and then 2 times 7 gets me 14y. And then 2 times negative 18 gets me 36. Or negative 36, excuse me. So then now we're going to see that our x's cancel out, but we're also going to see that our y's cancel out. So we have 0 left over. Excuse me. All right, sorry. So then we have the 29 minus 36, which gets me 7. Or negative 7, excuse me. And what we need to do is, or I guess we don't need to do anything. We just need to realize that 0 does not equal negative 7. So my answer here is no solution. Okay, so no solution, because those are not the same. If that was 0 equals 0, then yeah, you'd say infinitely many solutions, but it's not the case, so no solution. All right, diving into exponents. Number 17, let's go ahead and rewrite it. So I've got m squared times 2 to the first power, n to the first power, m to the third power, times m to the third power. Okay, so let's start with our big numbers. Okay, so our only big number here is 2, so that's going to stay in our answer. And you can look at our answers what cancels out. So this C cancels out and D cancels out. So we're between A and B. So the next thing I'm looking at is my m's. I've got m to the second power here. I've got m to the third power and m to the third power. So let's add those together. 2 plus 3 gets me 5. Plus 3 gets me 8. So I've got m to the 8th, which they both have. So then we're on to our last step, which is looking at n. And there's just this n. There aren't any others, so it's just going to be n to the first power, or just n. And that is b. Okay, let's see. We got 4a squared b cubed on the numerator. And on denominator, we got b a squared. Okay, so starting with big numbers, you only have 4, so that's going to stay where it is, just chilling. Okay, next thing we're looking at are my a's. Well, I've got a to the second on the top and a to the second on the bottom. So we're subtracting, so 2 minus 2 gets me 0. So these are just going to cancel out. So no more a's. And now we can go ahead and focus on my b's. I've got b to the 3 on top and b on the bottom, so 3 minus 1 gets me b squared with nothing on the bottom. So my final answer is D. All right, last one here, and that's a power 2 power. So I've got 4 to the first power, x to the first power, y to the first power, all being taken to the third power. So take that 3 to each little number. So I've got 4 to the third, x to the third, y to the third, but my last step is to find out what that 4 to the third is, which is 64. So I got 64, x to the third, y to the third, which is C. All right, so there's your key for the practice exam. If you have any questions, let me know. Good luck on the exam. I'm sure you guys will do great. There is a curve, so, don't be too stressed about it. See you later.